A tradition at risk in Somalia. The combination of climate change and conflict over land use could force herders to abandon their way of life.
Training young minds in robotics and artificial intelligence. As students engage with emerging technologies, a new generation of innovative thinkers takes shape in Nigeria. Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent Makori from The Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent Makori at The Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Our broadcast here looks a little different because of the global pandemic, but we truly appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Channels Television in Lagos brings you that story.
There have been increased conversations on how the younger generation in Nigeria should be taught the basics of robotics and artificial intelligence, as this has proven to increase their ability to be innovative thinkers and creative members of the society. Analysts advise that it's very important to hone the technical skills of students and expose them to the exciting opportunities that the future of AI world offers. This next report looks at how young minds are taking advantage of emerging technologies.
In today's technology-driven world, it has become important, now more than ever, to expose children to computational thinking as early as possible so they can keep track of the ever-changing trends dominating the world. And at this robotics center in Lagos, the younger generation are learning to increase their ability to be creative.
We identified a gap in the ability of the young generation to come up with creative solutions that can use technology and the platforms available to us to solve problems. And we realized that this gap needs to be filled, and the only way to fill it is to create a process whereby this young generation can learn. And we decided to focus on training. We are testing it. Don't worry about it.
You need to be very precise to get ready.
Here, they not only discover the variety of automation solutions, but also get their hands on innovative projects using strict STEM guidelines. It's not just about creating an app, developing a website, or programming a house. They can program robots and position themselves to properly take advantage of emerging technologies.
This toy car was made with the most basic robotic components: an Arduino, DC motors, servo motors, and a Bluetooth module.
I've made a quad pod because it has 4 legs. That's why I call it a quad pod. So it just mimics living things' behavior. The bionics. Bionics are devices or systems that mimics behavior of living things.
Working in groups, the young minds explore solutions not limited to the COVID-19 pandemic, like a home automation system, a smart home waste bin, a humanoid prototype, and a medical ventilator.
As you can see, this is a ventilator that doesn't require an oxygen cylinder. It generates its own oxygen by itself. There is a concentrator here. So the oxygen is generated at this section. Then you have the airbag valve here. This is where the oxygen that is being generated from this section is channeled to this section. And then through this mechanism, the compression mechanism, the oxygen is passed through a filter here. This is an air filter. Then passes through the pipe to the patient.
Artificial intelligence, robotics, and coding are just some of the many ideas that have been reserved for the technically inclined adults. But exposing younger minds to these concepts encourages them to improve their intellectual capacity in science and technology.
Joining us now is Graceolujee, the Executive Director at Go Do Hub, a tech-centric hub. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
So let's begin with what are the exciting opportunities that the future of AI world offers?
I mean, AI is not new, but to most of us in Africa, it's now that we're starting to embrace the technology, and the possibilities and opportunities in this field are endless. A recent report was done in the University of Pretoria actually highlighted that some of the sectors that will be key in Africa, sectors like agriculture, healthcare, public services, even our education and financial services. So there's a lot of opportunities from self-driving cars, automated flying, the possibilities of AI in Africa and within some of the young sectors that are struggling. We all know that we have a food problem in Africa, and AI actually accelerate and boost the productivity on that sector, actually solving a huge hunger crisis that we have right now.
So experts say it's important to expose young minds to technical skills of robotics and AI that will in turn help the society. Do you agree with this?
I agree with this because, I mean, we all know that children, when people are young, they're most creative because exploring and their minds are very active. So if we can expose them to technology and if we can keep it safe here being the key word, because technology can also be harmful to children, which is why, for example, even in the program we run at the Center for Young Girls, we have a course that talks about the harmful effects of AI, how AI can make or destroy. So it's very great. I mean, because at the end of the day, when these kids grow up to adults, they're competing for jobs, not just people in Nigeria, but competing for jobs with people in the UK who've been exposed to technology from young ages. So it's great that we expose them to it, but I would like to hammer on the fact that it has to be safe. So academic center, if you are a training facility, if you're a parent looking to expose your kids to technology, it's very important that you follow the ethical guidelines and make sure that the technology is not harming the child, but exposing them to the possibilities and opportunities for future tech careers.
So finally, I'd like to ask you, for those who are seeking a career in robotics and AI, how can they go about this?
So the first thing would be for you to get adequate knowledge on this. So do your research, understand what these new technologies mean, the impact that it could have on our community, and which roles will be best suited for you. And once you have that, get the skills. It's very easy to start today. I mean, COVID-19, edtech sectors have grown as a result of it. You had to learn from home. So now there's even more ready courses online, but the first point to always start will be to read enough about the sector.
Right, thank you so much for your thoughts on that and for joining us today on Africa 54. Graceolujee speaking to us there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, right, thank you.
Now, according to data from Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics, the housing deficit in the country stood at 17 million units in 2012. But with Nigeria's rising population and urbanization, the deficit in housing has continued to rise. The country's housing deficit has made the real estate market a natural attraction for developers and investors. But with Nigeria's present struggling economic outlook, most of the investors are currently Nigerians in the diaspora. From Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, Samuel Okocha reports on how this trend is playing out.
Akimbosola Adesina lives in Canada, but he is currently in Nigeria and visits this site from time to time to monitor the progress of construction work here. He bought 2 units of apartment in this building and plans to rent it out.
I intend to sublet them and put some of them on Airbnb so I can make some residual income.
Akimbosola is one of the many Nigerians in the diaspora investing in the real estate market in Lagos, which has become one of Airbnb's fastest growing markets globally.
It's more lucrative than having a tenant in your unit. So when I heard about the 2-bedroom apartment and with the price and with the location as well, the only concern I had was the road, which I got promised that it was going to be done, which I can see. It's getting done already, so I'm even more impressed.
The quest for modern solutions to Nigeria's housing deficit led Noah Ibrahim in 2018 to set up Novaric Homes and Properties, a real estate development firm providing housing and investment solutions in Lagos. His firm owns the housing project from where Akimbosola bought 2 units of apartments.
So this is one of the hottest things in Lagos right now. Short-let apartments, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Right, you're going to make 150% more than you make on an annual basis.
While investment in short-let homes has been a trend among investors in the real estate market, Noah says the buyer's market has largely come from Nigerians in diaspora.
Since the pandemic, we've seen a high influx of Nigerians, funds from Nigerians in diaspora back into Nigeria to buy, properties or to, establish businesses.
At the University of Lagos, Professor Ndubisi Nwokoma is the director of the Center for Economic Policy Analysis and Research. He says Nigeria's struggling economy means Nigerians abroad are currently in a better financial position to invest in the local real estate sector.
Because of the fall in incomes in Nigeria, the prices in that sector are also falling. The prices in the real sector, because there's no money. So the only money that is actually critical is money coming from abroad. So because there's no money, the demand has really gone down. So prices are low. So anybody who is buying, who has money from abroad, will find that it's better for him to buy now before things stabilize in favor of the Nigerian investors.
Meanwhile, with a poor economic outlook, affordable housing will continue to be a major concern in Nigeria. From Lagos, Samuel Okwacha reporting for VOA News.
In Senegal's Fatick region, residents are benefiting from a mangrove replanting project that has helped restore thousands of hectares of mangroves. Communities are now able to fish and also tackle climate change better.
It's a good start to the day for Marianne Ndong. She's hoping to bring home a good catch. She and her colleagues make a living farming and selling oysters and cockles in the delta of Saloum in the Fatick region of Senegal. However, 10 years ago, the picture was very different. Many of these mangroves had disappeared. The mangroves not only cultivate wildlife and sea life like shellfish, but also act as a protective barrier between the land and the sea.
Reforestation is very important. If the sea today has not taken over a village, this is thanks to reforestation. If nothing had been done, the sea would have destroyed the village. When you reforest, you see the mud in the mangrove. The mud reduces the force of the sea. The sea can no longer attack the village.
Marianne owes her livelihood to a local project, which funded the huge mangrove reforestation in the region. She owns a business that helps create an extra income that can pay for her children's education and clothing. Funded by the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and the Senegalese government, more than 50,000 families in the region benefit from mangrove reforestation. This also includes loans and training in how to add value to their produce.
It's really important to reforest areas around Senegal with mangroves, because mangroves really provide the last bastion of resilience in countries such as Senegal. Deforestation, road construction, and other areas have led to the denudation of these kind of forested areas that have essentially meant that incomes have been lost by vulnerable communities.
Mangroves are essential for preventing soil erosion, holding back rising sea levels, and promoting marine ecosystems. But in the last 25 years, Africa has lost nearly 500,000 hectares of its mangroves due to drought, deforestation, and construction.
It's time for a short break. As we do, remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, an artistic take on beach cleanup in Côte d'Ivoire, turning plastic waste into art seen in galleries throughout West Africa and parts of Europe.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. The International Committee of the Red Cross is warning that a growing climate crisis combined with conflicts is pushing herders in Somalia to abandon their way of life. Lucy Filder has more.
For Ahmed Mohammed, it's getting harder to feed his animals. He's one of Somalia's herders. It's a community that, according to the International Committee of the Red Cross, are being pushed to abandon their way of life due to conflict and the climate crisis.
We lost 50 animals. There were 70. 50 died. And we are left with 20 camels. Some no longer have livestock. They lost them all. That's how it is, and we are surviving.
Erratic weather patterns, floods and droughts are making pastures harder to find. The ICRC said conflict, the global health crisis and recent locust infestations have made matters worse.
The climate change.
Abdullah Tagola is the ICRC's Economic Security Coordinator for Somalia.
We have to recall that since 3 decades or more, Somalia is in civil war, in conflict. This conflict has displaced thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But now, Somalia is located in East Africa, the Horn of Africa, that is known to be, in terms of global warming, 2.5 times faster than the rest of the world. This has brought extreme weather events. These extreme weather events due to global warming, climate change, are droughts, floods, cyclones. All these factors now are more frequent, first, and are worse in terms of intensity in Somalia.
More than 30 climate-related hazards, including droughts and floods, have hit Somalia since 1990. That's a 3-fold increase on the 20-year period before. The recurrent nature of the climate shocks makes it hard for the herders to recover, the ICRC said, while conflict weakens their ability to adapt or find alternative grazing areas. The ICRC said it is supporting 11,000 families left in a precarious situation following a prolonged dry season this year.
An Ivorian artist is helping his country's environment by cleaning up beaches and creatively making art with the scraps he collects. Over a short career, Aristide Kwame has blossomed into one of the country's more original and provocative working artists. His unique methods have garnered wide acclaim, and his art has hung in galleries throughout West Africa and parts of Europe.
A 26-year-old Ivorian painter, Aristide Kwame, combed the beach dragging a trash bag of waterlogged flip-flops. He knew most of... Little did they know that Kwame, after collecting rubber scraps that had washed up along Abidjan's coast, would take them home, cut them into pieces and plaster them across a canvas valued at nearly $1,000.
This is the waste that men dump into the sea, and the sea brings it back to us because it doesn't like it. The environment doesn't want the negative things the man gives away, so the sea brings everything back to us.
Sitting on the floor of a narrow alley, Kwame carves shapes, letters and faces into rubber soles. He makes his own paint by grinding what scraps remain into piles of Technicolor pigment. Kwame's material choice are both artistic and economic. Plastic waste can be found strewn across many of West Africa's urban beaches as rubbish discarded into city canals is carried out to the sea, then back to shore with the shifting tide.
When I go pick up the waste, there are a lot of questions such as, what will I do with all of this? Will you sell the flip-flops? I simply respond that I am an artist, and by picking up this waste, I am removing the burden on nature. I am removing something that disturbs the beach because I do not like to see it dirty.
His works range from large portraits of civil rights leaders to abstracts evoking societal ills like climate change, COVID-19 and wealth inequality. All are made from old shoes he found floating in the ocean.
Voilà. Et moi, en tant qu'artiste,
Kwame's most recent work represents a woman and a child wearing masks and words made with engraved flip-flops that say COVID and confinement.
These faces, for me, they represent the society. These faces next to each other is humankind, and humankind needs an environment that is pleasant to live in.
On a recent afternoon in a chic neighborhood in southern Abidjan, several of Kwame's works hung in a gallery often visited by foreign art collectors.
Checking the spread of the coronavirus through hand washing is a challenge among some Kenyans who can't afford soap. Now, to help, a Kenyan charity is making soap out of vegetables to hand out in city slums. Victoria Munga reports from Nairobi.
In the Soweto slum of Nairobi, volunteers are making soap from vegetables. The goal is to provide soap for residents to wash their hands and prevent the spread of COVID-19. About 86% of Kenyans find it hard to access soap and running water each day, according to a UNICEF report last year. That includes most of Soweto's more than 70,000 residents.
Right now, the economy is high. The little I get is for feeding the family. Will I buy soap or provide for my children?
For people like Peter Maina, Kenyan charities like the Tulinde Child Trust are filling the gap.
Free hand wash. Free. Mwoshe mikono. People in this area, they don't have money to buy soap to wash hands with. As you can even see, some of them don't have the water to wash their hands. But as we give out the soap, we are encouraging people to wash their hands using the soap. Yeah, the demand is high, but the supply is low because I can't afford giving out handouts to all of them.
Kenya has about 140,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and more than 2,000 deaths. Authorities are passing out the soap at local meetings about the dangers of coronavirus.
We are able to reach out to many through churches and the chief's barazas and even in the marketplaces.
Regulations require businesses to maintain hand-washing sites for their customers, but authorities have found the rule hard to enforce.
We try to arrest people so that we can scare them to set up hand-washing points. That water number 1 comes once a week, so you have 3 to 4 jerry cans to fill. When you fetch the water, would you set up a hand-washing point or take the water home for shower and drinking?
Until vaccines arrive, hand-washing, masks and social distancing are the best hope for residents of places like Soweto to avoid the scourge of COVID-19. Victoria Amunga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. ChannelsTV.com, remember, is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.